Mulligan. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions here at Batten. You will see on screen, when I am not spotlighted, Courtney Leisner-Snyder. She is my colleague, our Assistant Director for Admissions. As Courtney just mentioned, we are recording at least a portion of this to be available on our website. So when we get to the Q&A, we will cut it, so we're primarily focusing on the presentation and the slides. But in the event you prefer very strongly not to be part of that recorded archive, when we get to Q&A, feel free to drop those into the chat. Otherwise, we will answer those live. But as I said, we will definitely focus the permanent archive on things that are not related to your lovely faces and questions. So we're going to try and respect some privacy. All right, so you are here because you are interested in applying to Batten. Awesome, thank you. I hope I've had conversations with a lot of you. What I'm about to share with you has already been updated on our website, which of course is batten.virginia.edu. But in preparation for apps opening next week on October 1st, I thought we could take some time today to give you a little bit more detail on some of the changes. So what we will talk about briefly, I'll go over just the different sections of the application and a little bit of an overview of our evaluation process. Our application fee has been waived for this cycle, spoiler alert, because we want to remove all barriers to exploring Batten. So that's some good news. We added a lot of additional detail and information in the application itself to give you better wayfinding. I'll go over some of those additions. We always have the optional addendum. I'll give you a little extra guidance on what you should consider adding into that space this year. And then there are some exciting changes on the BA side and on the ACCEL side in particular that we can talk about briefly before opening it up to you for questions. So these are the core pieces of the application. There is the front piece where you enter in all of your kind of personal information. We ask that you upload your resume or a CV. We ask for unofficial transcripts. Depending on the program, there are a number of essay questions to answer. We ask for 2 recommendations, not for the minor. So that's just for the BA and the ACCEL. And then, of course, the optional addendum. So a little bit about the way we think about evaluation. The admissions committee each year is made up of admissions staff and a rotating cast of Batten faculty. Each application is read at least twice. The admissions staff reads everything. The faculty read a slice of each pool, and then we come together and reach consensus on the candidates we'd like to admit. We evaluate applications holistically. So truly, there is no one element that you might have heard this before. I feel like I'm a broken record. There is no one element that's going to make or break you. There's no GPA cutoff, no prescribed classes outside of the prereqs, no set activities that we expect to see. What we do want to see across all of the pieces of your application are evidence of these bulleted items here. So leadership, think about that really broadly. That's both formal and informal leadership. Really, we want to know, how do you lead in your daily life? I think more important than being president of an organization is, how do you understand yourself to be a leader? What does it mean to you? What skills do you possess? How do you practice those skills? It's really the kind of internal and the the building blocks that we're looking for. We want to know how you lead today and how you will lead in the future. Professional vision, that's more so on the grad side. Because it is a pre-professional degree, we really want to know how you will use it specifically in your employment objectives. But of course, if you have policy interests or if you have a sense of that on the undergrad side, we would love to know that too. What is your motivation to study policy? We really want to know why you want this. Work experience and community engagement. So again, think really broadly: paid, unpaid, internships, jobs, school service, community service, really broad net about essentially what you're fired up about and how you practice that out in the world. Let's see, overall academic performance. So that's what we really want to see is growth. So yes, how did you do in your prereqs? What are we going to see on your transcript? But also, can we see that you're continuing to challenge yourself and push yourself as your classes get harder? Are you taking full course loads when you can? Of course, there's a caveat to that. There's always room for caveats in that optional addendum. I'm thinking in particular, the pandemic might have led for you to make some financial choices that might have dropped that course load. So we can talk about that in a minute. Quantitative aptitude. Again, this is something that's especially important at the graduate level in preparation for the econ and the stats that are part of our quantitative sequence. But we do want to see that you are going to be able to be a savvy user and consumer and analyzer of data. And then writing ability, how you communicate. Okay, so I mentioned one change for this year. We know the pandemic's really hitting everyone very differently. Also because of the pandemic and even before this, of course, we know how critical it is to have ethical and solutions-oriented policy leaders. So we don't want anything financial to be a barrier for you. We've waived the application fee for this cycle. We will consider it in subsequent cycles. And of course, for the minor, there was never an app fee. But so for the BA and the ACCEL, you don't have to worry about it this year. Better wayfinding. I mentioned we are giving more explicit guidance this year about what we're looking for. So we've added detail, we've explained ourselves, we've framed the questions, so you can really give us good information to help us get to know you better. Here is an example. Within the core application, there is this section that allows you to enter your activities. So this year, we're really encouraging you to stick with the 3 or 4 that really best highlight your leadership, your engagement, your policy interests and passions, and then you can give us that fuller list and more detail in your resume. Speaking of resumes, I see I'm going to add a plug for my friend Elizabeth Wall, who I see is on this call. The UVA Career Center, there she is, has a number of really cool resources on resumes in particular. There's resume review tools, there's samples, there are career counselors who can work with you. It's truly a wonderful resource, so I definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. Let's see, also in thinking about these extracurriculars that you're reporting out to us, think about the balance between high school and college activities. We know the challenge, especially now in light of reduced opportunity, but it's really critical that we get to know you in the here and now. So throughout the application, be sure to curate that information, what you're presenting, to give us that balance between high school activities, college activities. Further to that point about balance, making sure you're giving us a 3-dimensional view of you as an applicant. So in addition to the consideration of high school versus college, make sure in your recommendations that you're asking someone to talk about you in an academic setting, preferably at a collegiate level. And then perhaps on the other side, for the second recommendation, someone who can speak about you in some other way, whether it's employer, mentor, research, supervisor, coach, peer. We get peer-to-peer recommendations as well. Now, I understand that especially if you are in your second year, you might not have gotten to know your faculty that well. But here's my advice. Take every opportunity you can to get to know your faculty. They're really here for you. They are accessible. They're really important points in your network as you stretch and grow and get closer and closer to graduation and what you want to do next. But because you've been in larger lecture settings, perhaps because it's all online, perhaps, maybe you don't know your faculty that well, that's fine. So go to your TA or go to, say, an NWAR professor, because those are smaller class sections. Definitely think outside the box. Titles certainly aren't as important as someone's ability to speak about you in really concrete terms and highlight your strengths in the classroom and outside the classroom. Okay, so applying off cycle, you know the traditional application timeline, 2nd year spring for the BA and the minor, 3rd year spring for the ACCEL. If you are applying outside that framework, give us a better read on why. And just to note, if you haven't talked to Courtney and I and you're considering applying off that cycle, please, please, please set up a Zoom meeting with us. Those links are on our website, they're in our email signatures, because we can help you really give you more information about the experience, identify any stumbling blocks. We can kind of advise you on what you need to do to be on track to do that. So particularly for the accelerated program, your rationale for expediting it even further than the 2 years, the expedited ACCEL, of course, is an undergrad year and a grad year, so it's already kind of a crunch curriculum. So it's rigorous, it's grad level work, it's intense. To even consider expediting it further, it's also driving towards a particular set of professional outcomes. We really want to make sure for your sake and for our sake that it's a good fit. So this is a place in the application to tell us a little bit about that. Okay, you saw little snippets of our apps on those last couple slides. We have full walkthroughs available on our website. So for each program, you can go through start to finish, from signing up for an account all the way through to a completion. So you can definitely take a look. The addendum. So this is, of course, something that we always have in the application. So you can provide any information you feel like we missed an opportunity in asking you about, or to give us as an admissions committee a little bit more context. If there's anything in your application where we're going to have a question, where we're going to look at it and say, I wonder why that W is there for a first semester class, or I wonder why we see you going from 12 credits in a semester down to 9 up to 18. So it's a place for additional context. This year in particular, some students are obviously going to have gaps in their application materials due to the pandemic. Because it's affecting everyone so differently, we can't know why or how. So this is really the place for you to provide that context. So this might include your decision-making on taking credit, no credit versus letter grades in the spring. Maybe you had an internship lined up this summer and it fell through. Maybe, as I mentioned, due to financial considerations, you're taking a lighter course load. Maybe there's some other hardship or extenuating circumstance you're experiencing. Definitely put it here. Okay, so this is a feature that I'm super excited about. Because recommendations are so important in getting to know you, they are critical, but they can be really inconsistent. So this is an attempt to do a couple of things. We want to reduce the labor for both for you in taking some of the guesswork out of who you should ask, what you should be asking them for. For us as readers, it should help things move along more smoothly, which personally I'm super excited about. But also it really is going to help us standardize information. So it's going to help your evaluator as well, so that we're receiving similar information about all candidates. It really is an intent to remove a factor that you have very little control over. Sometimes you just get a bad letter. So this is an attempt to control for that. This is just for the BA program this year. We're piloting the rec form to expand to our other programs if it works well. So this is the application screen you'll see. Once you enter and save your recommenders info, an email will go out to them that points them towards this form. This is the kind of rating part where we're collecting similar data on each applicant, but there's also a free response box. And recommenders also have the ability to upload the usual kind of letter of rec if they've already prepared one or if that's their preference. So we're really trying to accommodate as many different ways of getting this information as we can. So these are the criteria that we use as an admissions committee to evaluate applicants. So you'll see that we're really trying to be as transparent as possible about what we're looking for in a successful applicant. You'll see in these criteria a balance of achievement and potential. You'll see we want some evidence of some hard skills. We want to know about your motivation to study policy and leadership, and then some measures that relate to things that we value as a Batten community. All right, one last bit to communicate to you. Finally, depending on the program, there are a certain number of essay questions to answer. For the minor, it's one straightforward 250-word response. It's basically why Batten. For the ACCEL, there are 3 questions. There's a why Batten question. There's a question that asks you to contextualize a failure or a misstep and show us how you grew from it. And then there's this new question on leading in a diverse and divided world. This question really reflects our values and reflects the world that we all exist in and that we hope you hope to enter, because it's critically important to cultivate these skills to be persuasive and effective, to make positive change across lines of difference, especially if you want to go into policy or government or public service. So give us a snapshot in this question into how you think about tackling it, and give us an example of a time that you did. This, by the way, is also a question for the BA application, and we debuted it last year at the BA level and loved the responses that we got. So we're bringing it into the accelerated application this year. The other BA essay question is about why Batten. This one is, I think, 250 words. Yeah, all of the essay questions are 250 words, save for the first accelerated MPP question on why Batten. We want a fuller explanation because we think you're probably a little bit further down in your thought process about how that program will really align with your goals. All right, that's the new stuff. So we will offer application assistance later on this term. We'll offer workshops, we'll offer one-on-one opportunities with ambassadors, so you can stay tuned for some of those. I want to now open it up to you all. What questions do you have about our application, our review process, what we're looking for, basically anything relating to the application